Welcome to Locked On Heat. On today's episode, we'll get into how Markieff Morris and Victor Oladipo could help save the Miami Heat this season, and maybe there's a trade to be made. It's all coming up next.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation. It's a Friday edition of Locked On Heat, a daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. However, you may be listening on YouTube or Odyssey or your favorite podcast app. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil, and with me, as always, is my co-host Wes Goldberg. This episode is brought to you by Truebill. Truebill is a new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. Wes, it was a tough game yesterday in game one of the absence of Bam Adebayo, a 111-85 loss against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We talked about that in yesterday's show, where we broke down everything about the Bam Adebayo injury, what it could mean for the schedule, what it could mean for the long-term repercussions for this team regarding playoff seedings, whether or not roster moves needed to be made. Something we'll talk about a little bit later in this show, but not a great start for the new era without Bam Adebayo, who's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks as reported due to a thumb injury in his right hand. So, we'll get into that a little bit. I don't know if you had any takeaways from that game. We did not record a recap after that game because, well, it was a pretty terrible loss. There's not a lot to say there. Miami really got smoked defensively, had no answers. Add a caveat that they were missing Jimmy Butler, who will probably be missing a substantial amount of time, actually, more than we had expected to. So, well, maybe not substantial. In context of what Bam Adebayo is going through, Jimmy's not going to be missing that much time. But it was a bad game for Miami, one that they gladly will put in the rearview mirror as they move forward to a 2-game set against the Indiana Pacers in Indiana, and then traveling to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. So not great. They'll be without Markieff Morris, who we'll talk about in this first segment, before talking a little bit about Victor Oladipo and whether or not he can make a quick return to help save Miami's season. And then we'll answer some more questions about Bam Adebayo and whether or not there is a trade that could potentially help this team right now. But let's get into the Markieff Morris thing, because this first question comes into us from Billy. He writes, it's been about 12 games now and coming up on a month since Nikola Jokic's cheap shot Markieff Morris in the back. Is he okay? Like, genuine concern here for the man. So as we're recording this right now, we just were notified by the team that Markieff Morris will not be traveling to Indiana and Milwaukee, along with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who, of course, will be undergoing surgery this weekend. So no Jimmy for the next 2 games, and no Morris either. So that's going to be a total of at least 14 games that Morris is going to miss for the cheap shot from Nikola Jokic that wasn't that big a deal and was totally warranted, according to half of Serbia and every Denver Nuggets fan. Is there a concern here from you? Because I mean, I know we'll talk a little bit about whiplash and everything else. That's been the reported injury. But are you concerned here that he might make a quick return at some point to help Miami out?
I mean, the time for concern is over. I mean, he's going to miss 14 total games with this injury. I mean, there it is. That's the problem. And I know Jokic served a game suspension, and if Markieff Morris wasn't hurt, he probably would have served a suspension. All right, didn't he technically get a suspension?
Yeah,
even though he was injured. Look, this was. I know there was a lot of people talking about, was Markieff faking it? Like, it was just he's being dramatic to try to get the flagrant foul called and all that. He was obviously not faking it. I think that's the takeaway. Anybody that thought he was faking it, is he still faking it? Is he faking it? Just missing 14 games, and the Miami Heat could desperately use him, especially now with Bam Adebayo out. You know who would be great for this team right now is Markieff Morris, somebody that Eric Spoelstra talked about potentially playing center this season, right? Like, you could play a front court of PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris. They really need him, and the fact that he's not able to travel for this trip just shows how real this thing is. If it wasn't abundantly clear even before Bam's injury and before this road trip. So, look, that's really my main takeaway. As far as when Markieff Morris could come back, it sound like the vibe I'm picking up is that it's better than it was a week ago, that he's showing some progress. Unfortunately, Eric Spoelstra and the Heat are very quiet about injuries, and they don't provide updates even when asked directly. It's sort of their deal, and it's something that I just disagree. I really don't think they should take that stance. I think it's pretty silly, honestly. Very like old school by the Heat organization, which is an old school organization. But let the fans know when their players are coming back. Like I think it's okay to provide an injury update. Like I don't know. Like I'm calling out the Miami Heat organization right now. Like anybody listening, like just stop it. It's a dumb principle to have. Just let us know what's going on.
That's the reporter in you kind of challenging the team there. You want to get more information. And I understand that because a lot of fans do too. And look, he was asked.
I think every fan would want to know. Like I wrote this whole thing about Victor Oladipo for the West Side like 2 weeks ago or something. You can't get any information from the team. I just talked to a doctor who said, hey, like right about now, he should be starting, full contact practice, or at least, moderate contact scrimmages and practices and drills and all this stuff. And, a week after that, after I write that, you catch him, going through a warm up before was it the Cavaliers game or the Nuggets game? Before the Nuggets game. He's out there warming up with the team during shoot around and stuff. And obviously he's starting to progress a little bit. Otherwise he wouldn't have been doing that.
Yep.
Because we hadn't seen that before. So I think, based on context clues and based on, just science and seeing him shooting, he's maybe doing something behind the scenes. We just don't know what. And the same goes for Markieff Morris. We have no idea what he's doing behind the scenes. We have no idea how close he is, and the team won't provide any updates. And that's kind of frustrating if you're a reporter, if you're a fan, if you're a podcaster. Anyway, I'm taking this in a whole different direction. But they could.
No, it's okay. Look, Eric Spoelstra was asked before the Cavaliers game for an update, and Spo said there's no update on Markieff Morris. So. And then we find out today, I'm recording this on a Thursday afternoon, that he's not going to be traveling with the team again to Indiana or Milwaukee. So, it's pretty bad. It is really, like Billy said, it is concerning. And the fact that Nuggets fans kind of dismissed the whole injury, that he was curled up in a fetal position as he was protecting himself and his head further, it goes to show you that the heartlessness of fandom, sometimes when it's your guy, you want to defend your guy as much as possible. And you risk your humanity in doing so by trashing a guy who was obviously hurt. Now, I did what any internet sleuth does when you find out about an injury. You look it up online. So here I am on WebMD, basically looking up the symptoms for whiplash. And let me tell you, they're pretty concerning. Neck pain and stiffness, worsening of pain with neck movement. So you can expect some loss of range of motion in the neck area. Headaches, most often starting at the base of the skull. Tenderness or pain in the shoulder. Tingling or numbness in the arm. This is potential nerve issue here. This is pretty severe. Some people also experience blurred vision, ringing in the ears, sleep disturbance. So your head hurts so much that you can't sleep at night. I mean, that could be detrimental to his long-term health prognosis at this point.
Yeah.
You can have difficulty concentrating and memory issues, and maybe even suffer from depression as a result. So all of this should be, again, as Billy said, very concerning, because we have no idea what he's going through. Again, to your point, though, not getting a lot of updates for the team. We just want to find out if he's going to be okay. At this point, it's more about his health, I think. And yes, you'd like to see him.
I think that much is clear. I think that much, like the Heat are making it about his health. Like if they really desperately need him right now, if he were even remotely close to playing or ready to play, maybe they would play him. But it's very clear that they're putting his health first and his long-term viability for this season first too, because all those things you mentioned can be lingering issues, right? It's not just the whiplash; it's everything that happens, to your point, after the whiplash. Does he have this shoulder and neck and back soreness going forward? Does he have a hard time sleeping? Does he have to deal with concussions here? And
he's going to get boxed out at
migraines
some
here
point.
now.
He's going to get boxed out at some point and suffer a relapse. So it's like better to take your time with it. So as much as a lot of people are frustrated, you want to be. This, I think, is also a kind of an about turn for an organization that was criticized for how they handled Chris Bosh, how they handled Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, and others. They've rushed players back sooner than later, and it's been a detriment for them.
Well, the thing with Bosh was that they wouldn't let Bosh play because they did put his health first. And I think they're doing the same with Markieff Morris. It would just be good to know what was going on. Is all I'm saying. One more time, just putting it out there.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about Victor Oladipo and his potential impact before we talk about some potential moves that could improve the roster with Bam and Adebayo missing 4 to 6 weeks. But let me tell you all about Truebill. Did you know why free trials are so hard to renew without your consent, or why they renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. It happens to all of us. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill. I know you're probably signing up to a lot of stuff with the holiday season building up, so this is the time for you to download Truebill because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. Truebill makes it easy. Just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. Truebill has over 2 million users and has helped save them over $100 million. You could be next, but don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. That's truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year only if you go to truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Just a reminder that you can always reach us via email over at lockedonheat@gmail.com or via Twitter using the hashtag AskLOHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show, leave a review, and because your feedback is so important, we've included a survey that we're hoping you'll fill out in our show notes on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. And please, as well, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know a lot of you are probably listening to this show on podcasts. It's been a popular format that we've used for, 5 years now. But YouTube is something that we're delving into, and we want your help. We want your subscriptions there. I know that it's frustrating right now for a lot of fans who are following the team. And if you're listening to the show, it's because you want updates about your Miami Heat. And subscribing to us helps us immensely. So please continue to do so. But we'll talk a little bit about this question that comes in from Dennis. He writes in via YouTube, a BAM solution is needed as game one against Cleveland just looked abysmal, albeit with a further reduced roster, of course, the absence of Jimmy Butler. But do you think they should get ahead of the curve and pick up a free agent or trade sooner because of this injury? Wes, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Right now, you're dealing with Dwayne Dedmon, who played a Miami Heat career high 31 minutes. You really kind of want him playing around that 23 to 25 minute range. They just don't have the bodies. And if it's not Dedmon, you kind of look behind him and you're like, all right, KZ Okpala for 15 minutes at center. I mean, that guy's like 6'8", 215 pounds wet. Like, that dude's not a center. And I've got I wrote for the West Side, just sort of the options, breaking it all down here. WesGoldberg.substack.com, by the way. And there, I include a video of just of Okpala playing against Jarrett Allen, who's a legit center, and Jarrett Allen just sort of shoving him out of the way like he's going through a door, holding one one arm full of groceries, and he just sort of swipes, Okpala out of the way, grabs it, and then gets the tip in at the buzzer to go into halftime. Okpala's not a center. Right, and then your only other center on the roster is Omer Yurtseven, and he's just flatly not ready to play. Which is, I mean, that was made clear when Eric Spoelstra didn't play Yurtseven until garbage time last night.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there because I mean I've seen a lot of the Heat Twitter discourse, and I know it's Heat Twitter. I know it's prone to overreactions, just like any passionate fan base should be. Yurtseven can't play. He is not the solution. It's not, and the solution isn't, as a lot of people have suggested, put him out there on the floor so that the kid can get victimized and prove that he can't play. Like, where's the benefit of that? He's not getting any great experience. It's not developmental, which is so crucial at this stage in his career as a young player. So getting him out on the floor only hurts him.
Yeah, that's the difference between Yurtseven and Okpala. Okpala's in his third year. That development time is over. Either you're ready to play or not. With Yurtseven, he was added to this roster as like sort of that developmental guy. Like, kind of let's just keep him over here. He'll practice. Exactly, he's your project spot guy. But the fact, and then they also used PJ Tucker for a few minutes in small ball groups, which weren't great. And I don't even blame PJ for that. I kind of blame everybody else around him. It takes more than just the center to make a small lineup click. It takes like the other four guys playing up a position. And I think it was Kyle Lowry after the game said, like, we just need to be scrappier in those kinds of in those kinds of lineups. We know PJ Tucker is not holding back on any scrappiness, right? I think it's the other guys, but it doesn't help when Jimmy Butler isn't there and you're kind of playing Max Strus at power forward or whoever it was. Like, it was just it was a strange lineup. It wasn't working. They don't have enough size to do it. So with all of that being the case, and the fact that you have an open 15th roster spot, I made the point in my column, again, after the Bam Adebayo stuff went down over the West Side, WesGoldberg.substack.com for the second time. It's malpractice if you leave this 15th roster spot open. I don't know how you can get away with it if you're Mickey Arison. Like, your championship window is still open. The Bam Adebayo injury doesn't change that. Jimmy Butler's 32. Kyle Lowry's 35. PJ Tucker's 36. You assembled this group, added those two guys that I just mentioned because you believe your championship window is now. And you can't afford to lose any more ground in an Eastern Conference where like 5 or 6 teams are within a game of each other, and you lose one game, you go from 3rd to 5th in the Eastern Conference. It's just you can't do it. You need to tread water as long as you can. You have an opportunity to be even better than 500 in this upcoming schedule. Like the hard part is over, right? Of the schedule, I mean. It's going to get more difficult without Jimmy Butler for a little bit, a couple more games at least, and Bam Adebayo for 15 to 20 games. But you still have an opportunity here, and there are guys out there. They're not Bam Adebayo guys, but there are guys out there capable of playing in the NBA. And if you wait any longer, like you just saw DeMarcus Cousins sign with Milwaukee. They didn't wait, right? Brooke Lopez, they're like, oh, this guy's not coming back anytime soon. Let's just go get a guy. Well, the longer you wait, the less guys are going to be available. So go get a guy right now. You have the open roster spot. And if you are worried about the luxury tax implications, I don't care. Fans don't care. Jimmy Butler doesn't care. Kyle Lowry doesn't care. Nobody cares about the billionaire's bank account here. And Mickey Harrison, I'm sorry, like you're an NBA owner. It comes with the territory. You might have to pay the luxury tax every once in a while. Repeater tax, luxury tax, I don't care. This is the deal. When you sign up and being an NBA owner, this is part of the deal. So you have to go out and sign somebody because it's Dwayne Dedmon and you're playing a small forward at center. You're asking you're potentially endangering Omer Yurtseven's development, and then you're playing PJ Tucker, a 36-year-old, out of position. There's no reason for it. Not for this long. Not for how long Bam Adebayo is going to be out. You got to go get somebody.
You know who was the guy who was just out there and a lot of people didn't think was going to be a great fit on this team or make a great impact on this group? Your starting center, Dwayne Dedmon, who was just kind of floating out there for over a year. So you can pick up a Jahlil Okafor, as we talked about in yesterday's show, a Greg Monroe, a somebody could be out there.
Bismack Biyombo's out there. I mean, like yes. In the past, not even just Dwayne Dedmon. Birdman picked up midseason. Hassan Whiteside was picked up midseason. I mean, like there are dudes out there every single year. You can go find a guy. You don't have to do it blind. Start bringing them in for workouts. Put them through.
Biz has been working out. Biz has been working out with the same trainer that works with Tyler Herro. Like that has to be something right there. Like there's a connection already in South Florida. He played in Orlando, obviously played in Charlotte. I'm sure he'd like to join that team at some point. But that's a guy who's a body, at least. You're not going to get much offense from him. But hell, at this point, you just need somebody out there who's not going to get dominated by a triple tower lineup of Lauri Markkanen and Jared Allen. It's just that's a lot of size to contend with, and that's Cleveland. I get it. But at the same time, you're going to move forward against the Nets, the Bucks. You got
games against Detroit coming up. The Sixers are coming up. Like you got Milwaukee coming up. There's
somebody in.
And by the way, I thought that you needed a front court guy anyway. Like you could sign a guy to a non-guaranteed. Once Bam comes back, and if there's no room for that player in the rotation, you can waive that player. Just go get somebody right now.
Right. So the second part of Dennis's question there about a trade, like that seems less likely. I know some people have already said, well, I don't know if Mickey wants to dip into the luxury tax as a repeat or blah, blah, blah. I get it. I get that's a concern. But at this point, like you said, it's too important for the timeline of Jimmy Butler's career, not to mention Bam Adebayo and Kyle Lowry, who you bring in for 3 years specifically because that aligns with Jimmy's window. And having said that, yes, you make that move. A trade seems less likely to me than just adding somebody off the waiver wire or somebody that's out there. And again, somebody out there like your current starting center, Dwayne Dedmon, because a trade is too many pieces aligned here. And Miami just doesn't have enough. You've already sacrificed a second-round pick because of the decision from the NBA. Of course, you've already given up a ton of second-round picks for the guy who's basically been gathering dust on your roster for 3 years in KZ Okpala. I mean, and for all the people who are frustrated with Duncan Robinson's performance, and his latest game was probably the worst of his NBA career. Yeah. I think the pressure is absolutely starting to get to him. He's shooting less than 30% at home now. We've talked about this. I know you can break it down to the semantics and nuances of his mechanics, the contract, and everything else that's involved in that. But the reality is he's just not happy right now. He's frustrated. He's in his head. My wife came in to watch the game yesterday, and I pointed out Duncan, and she said, "Oh, where is he right now? He just looks out of it." And that's from somebody who doesn't give a damn about basketball. And she could just tell that Duncan Robinson.
He was just hesitating on every three, like more than before. Yeah. I mean, there was one instance where he came off of, they kind of just ran that old JJ Redick play where he kind of curls from the baseline and go up, the floppy action. Thank you. And he had it, a wide open shot. It was just a turnaround jumper, one you've seen Duncan Robinson hit hundreds of times, not this season, but in the past.
Right.
And he just sort of hesitates and kind of does this weird like half step to the left, kind of gets behind the screen that was set for him, lets the defender get a couple more seconds to close out, and then puts up a contested three that obviously missed. It's just weird stuff like that, like hesitating, overthinking for no reason. Yeah, he's totally in his head. And they're the hard part for the Heat right now is they really need him now
Yeah.
to open things up on the floor, like more than ever. They need him.
Yeah.
They need Kyle Lowry. They need everybody now to step up now that Bam's out there, regardless if they go sign a player or not. And as far as trading, I agree with you. They just don't have the contracts. You can't move you can't lump Kazak Paul and Max Strus, let's just call it, like two minimum salaries and go get a guy. Whoever
Like
you
Harrison
get
Barnes.
at that rate.
Yeah.
Right, like whoever you get for like $3 million, because that's
Right.
what when you get the salary matching, like is going to be just as good as anybody that you can find in free agency right now. So just go pick somebody up. You have the open roster spot.
Right. And look, as much as we're kind of focusing on the need for a bigger body to make up for the absence of Bam Adebayo, without that rebounding edge, you can't ignite your transition offense. Your fast break, I think their fast break offense was completely dead yesterday. At one point, Cleveland had outscored them like 15-0 in fast break opportunities. So you're going to count on your shooting to kind of help you tread water. And right now, Kyle Lowry is struggling. Max Strus is doing okay. But Duncan Robinson, clearly the biggest problem as far as the starting rotation and shooting is concerned. But let's not deflect. I mean, Lowry's not exactly lighting it up. Gabe Vincent's on or off. He had some big shots in the fourth quarter, but that was too little too late there. And Strus, I know Strus is, he's not the solution. You can't just plug him into the starting lineup and expect him to become a better performer than Duncan Robinson. So anyway, I don't know. We're going to see how it plays out. Maybe Duncan goes 6 of 10 in Indiana, and all of a sudden
I have a theory. I think that the best thing for him was actually that streak coming to an end. I think like the fact that that streak of 69 straight games with a made 3-pointer, now that it's over, my theory, my prediction is that in Indiana he goes off.
Well, the one that's still kind of hanging over him and the rest of everything going on is the consecutive game streak, which, again, as I pointed out yesterday or 2 episodes ago when we were talking about Duncan Robinson and those struggles, which you should totally check out on YouTube, by the way. I think he's tired. I think he's fatigued. It's been a lot of basketball over the last 2.5 seasons now, and he has not taken much of a rest at all between that, the bubble, and the short turnaround to last season. It's been a tough stretch for him, and of course, dealing with free agency, dealing with trade rumors, dealing with his current slump. There's a lot going on there, and he's not gotten through it as easily as we would have liked. But it's been tough on him, as you can likely tell. But you know what? Another player who's been going through some tough times over the last few years might be getting closer to a comeback. That's Victor Oladipo, and we'll be talking about that in the next segment. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Built Bars. You should know about them by now, because this holiday season, Built Bars are the perfect treat. Grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better, a candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There are so many flavors to choose from. You'll have a hard time picking just one. You can have raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie, and new flavors are coming out all the time. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel when you're trying to get from visit to visit, when you're trying to meet all your family members over the holidays, or when you're trying to get through that shopping spree, that last-minute shopping spree. You don't have time to sit down and grab a coffee or grab a full meal. Grab a Built Bar, you'll feel energized, and you'll be ready to keep on going. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor. We want to hear from you. Let us know what your favorite flavor is. And don't forget to tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in those stockings. They make great stocking stuffers for kids, adults, or anybody. If you have to give out treats at a Christmas party in your office or anything like that, or a holiday party, Built Bars are great to give away. Dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa. Never tried that one, Wes. That sounds like a pretty tasty option there. If you like marshmallows, try the new Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in hot chocolate. They taste so good, you won't believe that they're filled with protein. So go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you get 15% off of your next order of Built Bars. Thanks again for always making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We're wrapping up today's week of podcasts. And so make sure to check all of those out on YouTube. We've been doing a great job trying to get everybody to sign up and subscribe to the show. We've had so much fun doing these shows, and we're continuing to expand everything we do, from watch parties to more and more shows, getting you all the content that you deserve to cover your favorite team. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Heat on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We're wrapping up today's episode, and we'll be talking a little bit about Victor Oladipo, because I think with the Bam injury, with everything else that's been going on with his team and missing Jimmy Butler, a player that a lot of people, I posted that video on Locked On Heat's Twitter account, which you should be following, of course. And, 20,000 views later or something like that, everybody's interested in this player, hoisting up half-court shots with Omer Yurtseven before the Denver Nuggets game earlier this week. And it was just exciting to see him out there. Some people were saying, you know what, I forgot he was even on the team. But Oladipo is on the team. He looks like he's getting better. We have not, as you pointed out earlier, heard anything from the team regarding any updates or progress or anything like that. And look, they're playing it safe. I get it. We don't know what the expectations are for Victor once he does return, but I think we had heard early when the announcement of his surgery was first made that some prognosis showed that he was responding very well to the surgery, and then he might be able to make a comeback as early as December. Well, guess what? Here we are, December 2nd, as we're recording this, and hopefully we'll start to see a return of Victor Oladipo soon. I don't know exactly when that is. Look, we talked about this when we were talking about the Bam injury. They go on a 6-game road trip to start off the new year. You'd love to be able to have Victor in the lineup before that happens, but at the same time, that might be a little too risky, a little too quick for his return. I don't know. We can't really go out of our way to say when he'll be back or not, but at least there's cause for optimism, right? Seeing him shoot out there, seeing him do some kind of basketball-related activities, seeing him on the bench against the Cleveland Cavaliers, something that we have not seen regularly throughout the whole season. So are you optimistic about Victor Oladipo coming back at some point soon?
I mean, it's clear that something is happening, that he is making that progress. You mentioned him being on the bench. I mean, all the shooting around. Yeah, I think we're probably, about a month away. That seems like, but that's a guess. I mean, he could come back. I mean, he's not on the road trip. He's one of these guys that are not on the road trip. Who knows? Maybe he's there when they come back. I have no idea. But I could see him coming back this month, maybe before around Christmas, something like that, or the beginning of January. But like you said, they're on a road trip to start the new year. So maybe mid-January, late December, mid-January. That's probably what we're talking about. But, to our emailer's point there too, like I kind of forget he's on the roster half the time too. Like how many times have I said, like, what this team really needs is another 3-and-D type of wing, another guy who could come off the bench. Victor Oladipo might be that guy if he's healthy, if he could stay healthy, and if he could sort of be that player. He doesn't have to be the all-NBA, all-star type of guy he was for a couple of years in Indiana. But I think that it was really obvious, especially against Denver, which is a long team, against Cleveland, which is a long team as well. Like this week, it was like painfully obvious that I think even when Jimmy Butler is healthy and Bam Adebayo is healthy, this team is a little too undersized. Not really the starting lineup. I think the starting lineup is fine, but when you get to that bench, they're a little too undersized and they could be exploited. And that's where Victor Oladipo comes in to me. It's not even what he could do offensively, but he could space he's a 38% three-point shooter over the last few years. Like, obviously, he's going to help you space the floor a little bit. He's going to help you, some ball handling, some playmaking, whatever, drive and kick stuff. But defensively, he's a rangy, smart defender who can guard 3 different positions really well, and he could switch onto fours when in a pinch. I think that he's sort of the guy Miami needs, and I think he really helps sort of elevate this team and gets guys, younger guys like Caleb Martin and Max Strus off the floor a little bit. Guys who are either on 2-way contracts or more sort of developmental type of guys, get them off the floor a little bit, have more veterans on the roster or on the court rather against the teams that you're going to be facing in the playoffs. I think Oladipo's addition to this team is going to be massive.
Now, I was just thinking about this as you're talking about it. It's like, I can't wait to see Victor out there. And I think I speak for a lot of Heat fans. But at the same time, I was wondering, would it be better to get him on the floor sooner rather than later? Because there's the potential, in mid-January, as we talked about, for Bam to come back, for Victor to come back. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that pairing, that gets a lot of Heat fans much more excited. And not just that, but there's an on-the-court chemistry too. Because as we saw against Cleveland Cavaliers, without that, back line of defense, all of a sudden there's none of that, attacking defenses or attacking passing lanes, breaking up passes, deflecting shots and things of that sort. None of that seemed to exist yesterday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's something that Victor did really well in the 4 games in which he played here, is that he was still able to use those quick reactions, his instincts for the ball, because he had some help back there between having a Bam or somebody else along those lines to help clean up those messes. He could be a little bit more risky and when he was taking those opportunities. We talked about this in the episode about Bam, where, that's something that Jimmy thrives in, is being able to break up those passes because he has somebody like Bam back there. So am I crazy here, or should look, regardless of the health
I think
issues,
if you could get him, if you can get him, look, first of all, yeah,
sooner,
you got to make sure he's healthy and ready to
right,
go. But if you can get him sooner, you got to do it, because you just need all the help you can get. I understand. Is he better when Bam is out there? Yeah, everybody's better when Bam is out there. That's the charm of having Bam Adebayo. But if you're going to have to play small for long stretches, especially with Bam out, then it helps to have a guy like Victor Oladipo who can, dribble, pass, and shoot and defend. Like, those are the kinds of guys, those versatile kind of players that can just sort of do everything. Those utility type of guys. The more of those kinds of guys you can get on the floor. Jimmy Butler comes back and he's healthy. Then you have at least a semblance of an identity when Dwayne Dedmon is out. If you don't actually go out and get another center who could play behind him or something, you need to do something. You need as much help as you can get right now, because I am concerned about the health of this roster. I know everybody's hurt right now, but there's been injuries all season long, and that's kind of the fear we've had for this team whose average age is north of 30 years old. Like, just because Bam and Victor get back and Jimmy gets back doesn't mean like there's not going to be any other injuries for the rest of the season. I'm starting to get worried about the overall validity of this team, the viability of this team, and the way that it's constructed given its age. But with all that said, it doesn't help when Victor Oladipo hasn't played a minute for you this season.
Yeah, and I hope also, as bad as that Cleveland game was, that just kind of quashes any of the Bam's overrated, Bam's not a max player. This team is so different without Bam and Adebayo out there. How could you not think? How could you not see what his impact is out there?
Yeah, that game was lost as soon as that announcement came out and the Heat found out Wednesday morning. Like, they had hours to make adjustments. They still had no Jimmy Butler. Like, that game was lost before it even tipped off.
Like, we talked about this again recently, but man, like, I know he's not a 30-point per game scorer. He's not always aggressive. He's not always looking to take 50 shots a game and all this crap. You want a chucker like that? I mean, there's plenty of them out there in the league, and there's probably some of them playing in Europe right now. They're not good enough to be in the NBA for a reason. Bam is. He's so good. He's so versatile. He does so much. It's a reason. There is many reasons why he's a top 25 player in the league, and we saw that against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that'll wrap up our week. It's been a tough one, but we thank all of you for sticking with us and always supporting the show and always making Locked On Heat your first listen or your first view if you go on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe as always. I'm David Ramil signing off for now. Thanks for joining me, Wes.